Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 245 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast. Your comments are very welcome. Please comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast@blogspot.com, or you can comment on our group on Ravelry, which leads me to say the warm thanks department this week. I want to really give a warm thanks to Story, who caught the fact that my last episode, 244, was not uploading. Boy, I'm glad you said something. I went back and fixed it, and I appreciate the help there. I also want to thank our own Chris because she was talking about the time she came to Menlo Park in Northern California, which of course is right next to Stanford, where I went to graduate school for my first doctorate. And Chris was talking about all the places she saw up there, and it was a nice trip down memory lane for me. Chris did note that the city of Gilroy, town of Gilroy, smells like garlic. Yes, it does. And they have a legendary annual garlic festival, which I would recommend you go to at least once. My then boyfriend, now husband, and I went there while we were dating seriously. We ate so much garlic. Garlic ice cream is what I really remember. It was surprisingly good. Kind of vanilla with garlic, and it actually worked. Who knows why? Garlic iced tea, which is about as American as you can get, and all sorts of things garlic. When we came home, we were sweating garlic through our pores to the level that my cats left the apartment. They were allowed to go out the back and could wander outdoors because it was a low-traffic neighborhood. And I think I had Guinevere's smudge. We might have had dough. Anyway, all of them left because we stank of garlic. We sweated it out for weeks. This also leads me to the happy memory. There used to be a wonderful cookbook called To the King's Taste, and it was a modernization of a cookbook that was used for King Richard II. I think it was Richard II. I don't think it was Richard III. At any rate, they had garlic chicken where you stuffed a chicken with grapes and 26 cloves of garlic. And that was another thing that if you ate it, everyone could smell garlic, not just on your breath, on your clothing, on your sweat. You really got to try and go to Gilroy for that garlic festival. If you're going to be in Northern California, I think it's in late August. Should be happening pretty close to now, in fact. I also want to thank the folks signing up for CFR 11. We could use a few more of you guys. We're not going to get the hotel rate that I'd like us to get if we don't get you. Now, that's both good and bad because, frankly, in Santa Clarita, there's a lot of places to stay. And this is a day thing. And of course, it gets a lot more intimate with the people who are staying in the hotel. We go, we hang out together, we go to meals and all that. But if you're just day tripping it, that's really wonderful too. We seem to have people who were very happy doing that last year. So hopefully you will get there. But please sign up for CFR. And thanks to the people who have and who let me know whether they're staying or not, because I need to call the hotel. I'm kind of waiting to see, are we going to make the 25 number that we need to make before I contact the hotel again. In the meantime, I'd like to thank my community in this group of listeners, most of all, but also on the ground in the Santa Clarita Valley, on Reddit, and in Finch. And yes, you can see my two birds in Finch. One of them is in Scotland. The other one was in Iceland. And while they were there, I realized if I were in Scotland or Iceland, I'd certainly be camping. So you can see Courage, who was in Scotland, I believe, she and Forthright are in Courage's little camping hut in the north of Scotland, up there somewhere on the moors, And below that, you can see Forthright's Cave. I just thought it was an interesting campground. If you're going to find that anywhere, you'd find that in a Nordic country, trust me. So they're in their cave campground in Iceland. I have to admit that right now, Forthright got a little tired of Iceland with about 10 days left to go there. So she went to Paris for a 5-day break. So I believe both birds are kind of hanging out with each other in Paris when they hang out together. At any rate, you can tell I've gotten a little too addicted. In the meantime, Cognitive Fiber Retreat 11, all the information is right there. There is a link that says all the info is right here, and the link is the word here. That will take you to the information thread on Ravelry. Yes, I have a hotel reservation. Remember, this is a one-day thing, but it is common for people to spend Friday and sometimes Saturday night. I will be there Saturday night. It is actually occurring on Saturday, October 11th. Please go register for it. This is easy. PayPal, $10 to me at gemmadw@yahoo.com. I say it's not refundable. I have refunded in the past when we had overage or whatever. Right now, for $10, it's not refundable. If you've ever attended a CFR, you're an automatic admission as long as you pay the $10. But frankly, I think it's great. If you haven't attended, you're very, very welcome. We're going to go up to 50 spaces. It doesn't look like we're going to fill this year. I'm a little sad about that, but we are working on it. The hotel issues that I mentioned in the show notes are they want us to have 25 people 2 nights in a row to get the discounted price. All I can say is let's give it a try. If we get 25 people on Friday night, I will just negotiate for the Friday night discount. So let's see what we can do with that. And I'm sorry, the hotel is just being very strong-armed about this. In the meantime, you might say, also, by the way, we have gone over 50 people in the past, that if we get 51 or 52 people, I'm really not going to bounce anybody. And do remember, we do have our vendors coming. So, we do have Oink and Laser Sheep. And I was offered some other vendors by a member of the local group here in Santa Clarita. I'm going to see if I can touch base with her and see if she can give me that information. Okay, meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles, you may be saying? Well, I did finish another emotional support chicken, number 6. Yes, the whole flock is on the desk, as you can see at the top of the show notes. This is Myrtle. Now, I should give her a clever chicken name like, Senator Elizabeth Warren, but I didn't because she just looked like a myrtle to me. And I wanted to use up 2 spectacular sock yarns. I cannot even identify these yarns. I've had them so long in my stash. I think even the socks made for them have expired. But they're just beautiful. And I thought, it's going to be a fantastic chicken. She is fantastic, and yet she looks amazingly domestic and calm. So Myrtle got this very Myrtle name is all I can say. Right, Myrtle? I'm looking at her on the desk. She agrees. Okay, and I'm almost finished the next one because I did do a whole bunch of the tummies in advance. And really, once you've got the tummy done, for some reason, the rest of it really goes fast. All right, meanwhile, no work on anything else except I did a little bit of hooking on the September sweater. I had it on the train with me. But sure and begorra, I went back down to the Little Knittery, which this is in Los Feliz, by the way, a part of LA. Los Feliz is a great neighborhood, and I'll come back to it in this episode. But the thing about the Little Knittery is it has a really nice collection of different variations on Noro cotton right now. And it's got some Noro wool. And I just keep walking in that front entrance and falling in love with this big display of Noro, all these giant skeins of cotton. I mean, they're very, very large. So I bought this blue-toned because I realized that I would like to make another lacy summertime shrug. This is a free pattern from Lion Brand Yarns. And the yarn that they recommend, they don't even make anymore. It doesn't matter. This is really fun. And this is one of those things you should know about. First, when shrugs came back into vogue, they came back for tweens, very young teenagers and tween kids. But they're actually a really nice resource. And once you know how to make a shrug, you've really got something. And I will tell you the basic shrug. Try not to laugh because you already know it, right? It's a rectangle. And the trick is finding, like making a sweater, the trick is finding your own measurement here. And when you make the lacy summertime shrug, you're alternating V stitches with shells. So a V is, double stitch, chain 1, double stitch to make a V. And then a shell is 3 double stitches, double crochets. And of course, you just keep doing that. And you do the V into the V below it, and the the shell into the shell below it. So this is as easy as it can get. Where it gets a little mind-bending is that is not the way you look at this. That you're going to fold it in half long ways so that you're turning the shells and the V's on their side, and it makes a very different pattern. I say this because every time I make this is my third one, I get really confused about it. And I made one out of just a really beautiful cream-colored yarn that I inherited from one of my jobs. Some of you will remember this because Mindy used to make a lot of it. I gave her a lot of it, and she made a lot of sweaters out of it. She would always wear them to Cognitive in the past. But anyway, I made one in that. I made one in a hand spun, and the moths eventually got it. I wore it in Fiji. It was a great success. So this one, I said, okay, I really should make this in a cotton blend. And I saw this Noro and lost my mind. And these things work up so fast. And the real trick is to figure out, you measure yourself. You have somebody measure you, really. And you want to figure out how long do you want the sleeves to be. Okay? And so you stand up and you make goalposts out of your arms because you want the upper part of your arm to be as hefty as you can make it so that you don't have a tight shrug. Okay? And then you're going to measure across your back with your arms up like a goalpost to figure out how wide you want this to be. And that's how many inches of rectangle you're going to make. So the pattern I'm using says, 29 inches. No, that would be kind of ridiculously long for me. For me, I think the measurement is about 24, 25 inches. Okay, and then you also have to measure down from the top of your shoulder, because the initial width of this you will be folding in half, and that will go from the top of your chest over your shoulder and down your back to make the sleeves. And of course, the shrug part will be just down your back. So when you look at this, I think intuitively most people think you're going to turn it so when you go across in your chaining, that's how wide your shoulders and sleeve will be. That is wrong. That is actually how far it will be down the back of the shrug and where the sleeves are over and around your arm. So you really want to make sure that you measure your arm as goalposts, because you want to get the heftiest measurement you can get on your arm so that your shrug is not too tight. And that is going to be the initial chain measurement, that it should go over you comfortably like that. I mean, you could take your initial chain and wrap it around your arm, make one arm into a goalpost like you're flexing your bicep, and do that. But you just have to think about this. But this is a ridiculously easy shrug to make. It is beautiful. You really can't get it wrong once you get your own measurements. And it's really wildly versatile. It's nice over a t-shirt. It's nice over a tank or something sleeveless. Really, really nice. All right, meanwhile, no work on the quilt squares. Dizzy Blondes. I've been cranking along there. You can see a picture. I finally plied and finished the persimmon colored BFL that I got from Lisa Souza. I seem to have roughly 300 yards of it from, I think I had 2 braids of it. Okay. I have to say, I think it's more of a bulky. It kind of goes between a size 4 and a size 5, a worsted and a bulky. I will probably treat it as a worsted when I knit it. And today I also just finished plying up and skeening up. The other yarn I did with it which was the camel hair silk. And this was picked, the persimmon was picked to go with the camel hair silk. And so I ended up with a skein of pure camel hair silk, triple plied, and a skein that is a mix of the camel hair, 2 ply of that against a single ply of the persimmon, which I really like how that came out. That was a really good blend. I did not want to drown the camel hair silk in the pale orange of the persimmon. I wanted to go the other way. And then I have just the persimmon. So currently now I am spinning the last of my fiber that I believe in my whole collection. And this is the Lisa Souza BFL Giverny. That is, it is a bluish green called Giverny. I have to say too, I'm very seriously going to bring wheels to get rid of at CFR. That as I'm realizing this is the end of my fiber, I'm really rethinking how I want to spin. And I realize that the part of my life where I want to spin on a non-electric or non-battery powered spinning wheel is pretty much done. I'd like to move those wheels along to other people. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to think about how that happens. The problem isn't getting rid of them. I would take my whole collection to CFR if I could. The problem is fitting them in a vehicle. Hello, if you're listening, Loretta with your SUV. But I really would like to move these spinning wheels out because at my job, I am now on the 24-month plus a handful of weeks ticker for retirement. There may be an accelerated version of this where instead of 2 years out from retirement, I am 1 year out. We shall see. I'm seriously considering that. It really depends on how my son is doing in college and how he adapts to it. So, I do not want to relocate with those spinning wheels. I think they're fabulous. I've had a great time with them. They're perfectly good wheels. I've got a lot of bobbins, including some for woolly winders. What I plan to do, I plan to keep my electric eel wheels. I have 2 of the 6.1s, and I think I've got 1 or 2 nanos. And that is enough wheel for me at this point in my life. Down the road, I may pick up a Hanson. You never know. I find them a little too pricey for what you get out of them, although I know they're very well made, but I just don't want to pay that kind of price. Okay. So if you are interested in a spinning wheel, and listen, LA Spinning Guild members, listen up. You guys should consider this. And yes, I am going to charge you the admission fee for CFR if you come up to this. But this is a great way to come and see some spinning wheels and maybe put down a bid on a spinning wheel. Having said that, I am currently using the electric eel 6.1 to spin my yarns. And let's get on to a strategy, shall we? Okay. Now, last week, I was talking about changing things up. And I was horrified. It's so not me. I'm such a lover of routine. But I have to admit, I have learned in my life that periodically I have to shake things up a little bit. Whether it's the weekend trips to LA and what I do on those trips, whether it's the way I'm seeing patients, whether it's the type of patients I'm seeing. At this point in my career, I have to tell you, I became a psychologist because of the variety that is possible in my profession. So I went to grad school and I did object relations there. I got out of grad school and really did more talk therapy, psychodynamic stuff, but also had to start learning Cog B, which I didn't like when I first heard about it. I thought it was too rigid and mechanistic. Okay, over time I've become a Cog B therapist. In the meantime, oh my goodness, I started inpatient with actively psychotic people. I treated kids for years. I supervised. I ran programs. I went from that to working in a prison with adults, obviously. And again, that's inpatient, very severe stuff. From there, I did workers' comp with adults and was kind of nomadic and a contractor, which was a great time, working with the mallard and the heron and the stork. It was actually a very wonderful 6 years when I look back on it. It's very freebooting and happy. And from there, I went back to DMH, which really I shouldn't have, but it was a good enough 3 years to refinance the car and all that stuff. And from there, I went to a variation on things. I worked in inpatient in a nursing home. I worked in a program called Peers for autism, for teenagers with autism. I did parenting. And I had a great time. I got this job and realized this was the job for me. And I've been very, very happy in this job, I have to say. So obviously I need variety, but my variety spins out slowly. So I really want you to hear when I talk about, you need to change things up. It is important to learn who you are in that system. Like I think about when I was saying, Jasmine likes to have a lot of projects going on Ravelry, which makes me insane. When I have more than 4, I feel a little strung out. I do have more than 4. I think we've got like 8 now, but most of those are in the planning stages, which is why they're on my queue. I don't put them in the queue. I put them right in the project, so I remember to do this yarn with this project. This is why I bought a certain yarn, etc. So, what I would say is, yeah, you do need to change things up for relief, but you also have to remember where you fall on that spectrum. So, when it comes to things like housework, or really projects that drain me, that I'm not that excited about, I work in the 15-minute intervals most of the time when I'm writing reports. I got requests for, I think, 6 reports this week. And, my husband would sit down and write 1 report at a time. I don't do that. I download the paperwork, transfer it to the Remarkable, sign it off for like 6 people instead of just 1. I guess at the date I'm going to finish it. Then I set up the template for each letter, but I don't do the actual letter. I just fill out the template so I'm ready to go. And when I get all that done, and that takes about 3 days with 6 reports, then each day I will spend half an hour on a single report, finishing it and loading it into the chart. And then letting my people know that they can send it to the insurance provider. So in other words, instead of doing one thing straight through, beginning to end, when I have a challenging project, whether it's insurance reporting as a psychologist or doing a long project on Ravelry, a knitting project, I will work in small increments, and that is good enough for me. But I can't have too many things going at once. I start getting a little bit strung out emotionally. So one of the challenges of adulthood is to learn this about yourself. Where do you work well in bursts? Now, if you have ADHD, that's easy. That's the 80-20 rule, but I think the 80-20 rule is very true for everybody, which is when you're working on something that doesn't excite you, you get 80% of your best work done in the first 20% of the time you allot to it. And this is why, instead of taking an hour to do a report, which would work, I would get it finished, I don't. I do little bursts of each individual report, because then I'm going back to 0 and getting that 80%. At least this is my fantasy. Okay. And again, when it comes to things like how many creative projects do I have going at one time, I know I want to start working in resin. Glorious kits for this all over the place, including Amazon, although I'm trying to boycott them. But I'm not doing that because I can tell I have too much going. I'm still in the midst of a bunch of Woobles projects and my Reddit group on Woobles that I'm leading. And I'm in the middle of the chickens, and I'm loving the chickens because I'm finally working through all this leftover sock yarn. Pardon me. And yes, I want one of the chickens to be our pattern, although I don't think it's going to be the big chicken. I think I'm going to go for the smaller chickens that you can realistically do in a weekend and walk out saying, here is my cognitive CFR 11 chicken, But these are great for leftover yarn. And I like in the summer doing small projects like amigurumi. Yes, I have a lot of stuffing. I will try to bring it with me to CFR so that we have some stuffing for the chickens. But you can pick up bags of stuffing at Michael's pretty easily, I would think. Okay. So the idea here is variety is the spice of life. As I said last week, you really do need to change things up. But I want you to keep focused on the idea that you are allowed as an individual to determine how much change versus how much straight through work on one dedicated project you want to do. In the world of psychology, we talk about doing one task versus multitasking. There is a study I know of that says multitasking is not as efficient as doing one task. I do not believe that study. I think it really depends a lot on the variables there. The variable I want to introduce to you is imagine being a woman with, I'm thinking one of my patients here, you have 3 small children and a full-time job. Okay? You explain to me how that woman's going to get through her time at home without multitasking. You explain to me how with 3 small children and working from home in a profession, you're actually going to sit down and do one task straight through more efficiently. To do that, you'd have to be screening out a lot of other demands. So I think there has been a trend in psychology to say, oh no, just do one task at a time. I think that is very masculinist, and I think that is a poor control of the variables in this experiment that influence women, and to be honest, I think men with a full-time job when they're at home. So, a guy comes home from a full day of work and you ask him to do repairs around the house, I think he's going to have the same problem. He's got kids too and a wife that the woman is having, trying to manage her time. So what I would say instead is I think the individual has to work out how to manage their time, and it is a mistake to think you do everything in the same pattern. I do housework and all that in 15-minute bursts, and I do a good job. But when I sit down to knit, I will turn on a book, and I can be lost for hours listening to a good book and knitting a chicken. So don't do too much of a good thing. You are allowed, as an individual, to work out how you make things work. Oh, shoot. Well, LA, I went both days to Los Feliz. And Los Feliz, I realized I was going down to Glendale because I'm really in love with the Glendale Gallery, and it's very easy to get to by public transit. Take the train to Glendale Station, and when you get off, there are buses sitting right there that will take you to the mall. They know their job. They also will take you to several other interesting things, as I found out this weekend. Because if you stay on, now if you take the basic bus to the mall, it goes to the mall. But you can take it up 3 stops, get off on Los Feliz Boulevard. If you take the east and northbound bus, that will take you to downtown Pasadena. It's a long ride, but it's worth it. If you take the bus in the other direction, which is west and southwest, you will end up in the incredibly walkable neighborhood of the village of Los Feliz, and at the bottom of the neighborhood is Hollywood Boulevard. Here's the trick. When you pick up that bus towards Los Feliz, there's 2 of them. They will take you an amazing route. You will go through Los Feliz, past Griffith Park, through Los Feliz Village, and then down Hollywood Boulevard to all the tourist traps like the Chinese Theater, the Walk of Fame. So, I have to tell you, that is an incredibly rich route to take. So, on Saturday, I just went to Los Feliz because I wanted sushi and I wanted to go back to the little knittery. And I found my Noro, and you can see the picture of that in the show notes. And I like the little knittery. They're very, very helpful. And I went back to Starfish Sushi, where I discovered that last time I was too tired to realize they have a whole menu of no rice for people like me who can't eat rice. And you can see a picture of one of their no rice rolls, the Oishi roll, which was fantastic. I could not resist that they do their horseradish. They made a little blossom out of it. I just love beautiful presentation. So there is a picture that is sort of a combination of their address and name from their chopsticks wrapper, and then my sushi, and then that beautiful, beautiful radish blossom. And of course, you can see the yarn I bought at Little Knittery, as I said. And in the projects, you can see how far I had gotten on that knitting, I think Saturday and Sunday. Okay. On Sunday, I went back. I was going to go down Hollywood Boulevard, but I got overheated, and I'll come back to that in the blather. But that was it. I did get to go out hiking. I have not been running as much as I'd like to because it's very hot. I'm about 10 days out from the 5K race up in Tehachapi. The really good news there is it's going to be a family event. My husband this year just decided he wants to go, and he wants my son to go. So I'm going up Thursday to pick up our race packets. And I will see patients up there Thursday from the hotel, which is so nice for me. And then Friday, they will come up, and they are not allowed in the room because I'll be seeing patients, but they're going to go explore the area while I see patients. We are going to eat barbecue at the Red House till it comes out our ears. And then Saturday morning, the beloved son and I will do the race. I'm really looking forward to this. This is August 16th in Tehachapi, the Mountain Gallop. There is the link in the show notes. Meanwhile, you can see my other races, and this leads me to the fluffy books. Okay, I'm really enjoying the Tomes and Teas series by Rebecca Thorne. I finished listening to the first book, Can't Spell Treason Without T, T-E-A, and I am now listening to the end of A Pirate's Life for Tea, and I like these books so much. They always build up to this big climax, and then nobody gets real violent and it's really nice. So I've been enjoying that. I purchased some other books in my series that I'm looking forward to. I need to finish the Lady Janies, which I'm in the Mary series. I want to finish that. I think that's My Salty Mary, and I can't think of the other one that is there. If that's in My Imaginary, because I know there's the My Imaginary Jane. I'm trying to think it's My Imaginary Mary as well. At any rate, it's about Mary, Queen of Scots, when she's the Queen of France. So it should be interesting. At any rate, I gather she doesn't make it to Scotland and have a tragic ending. And I also bought the next books in the Emily Wilde's Book of Fairies trilogy, because that is strangely addictive. I didn't expect to like that nearly as much as I did. So we have some goodies coming up. But right now, I do recommend... Oh, by the way, I want to advise you, though, the Tomes and Tea series is sapphic in its nature, but it is not explicit, except at the end of A Pirate's Life for Tea, there is one very hot, passionate short story there where they get a little more graphic. I still don't think it's as graphic as I've seen, but it is not for the kids. All right, having said that, something I really like, it's Wednesday night. And you know what's on tonight on Wednesday night? Wednesday. Series 2 is on Netflix. So the minute I finish recording this, I will start watching Wednesday. Wednesday has its problems, and I'm not going to get into that. It is much closer to Charles Addams' original version of who the characters are than it is to the television series The Addams Family. It's somewhat close to the movies made in the 90s. There was a lot of bad Addams reboots where they tried to bring the cast back, had a different house, blah, 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 blah. No. I have a real special place in my heart for the Addams Family. I saw a poster in Skylight Books in Los Feliz, and I realized I have to go back and get it, because it's The Addams Family by Charles Addams, and they're standing in front of their mansion. Their mansion was modeled on College Hall from my alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania. Addams attended it. And on the print, it has the family, the original cartoon versions of them that he drew. And then behind it, it has the house and it says College Hall. And I'm thinking, I might need to own that. I try not to be this acquisitive, but there you go. At any rate, something I really like, Wednesday. No, it is not as true to the character as I like. If you're really feeling interested in Wednesday Addams, I would say go to YouTube and look up the series made a long time ago called Adult Wednesday Addams. Those were brilliant. They were made by an actress based in Santa Monica, and I think she was trying to audition by making these. I don't care. They were right. And the one about the two misogynist guys who are making sexual comments to her, she walks down the street. Her revenge on them is just so satisfying, it hurts. But it is dark, let me tell you. It is Wednesday Addams. Okay, meanwhile, on my Project Proton, I loaded episodes 181 to 242 of the original series up for the month of August. I am shocked that I was able to fit all this on my Proton account, but I did. So that takes us through the entire original series. I will probably do the current series up to, I think I'm at 240 something now, at 245. I can't believe I just said that. I'm looking at my show notes with the episode label. I will probably do this series up to about 200. It really depends on what I can fit there each month. Then I will circle back and do all of them again. This is easy to do because I am zipping these 10 at a time, and I'm saving those zipped files on my 4 terabyte drive. So now I'm going to have them handy. Right now when I do this, I have to take time each week and zip them. Now I'm getting that over with, so I'm saving them, so this should be great. But if you want the back episodes 181 to 242 of the original series, please go in and check the link again, because I've noticed that the link goes south after it's been shared and used a few times. So I do routinely go back and refresh the link. It is the same link. But please go get episodes 181 to 242 zipped of the original series. Meanwhile, nothing big in put a lid on it. I carry the Keterade recipe because I don't want you guys to die out there in the heat. And let's get on to the blather, shall we? Okay, So yes, as I mentioned, I'm still trying to boycott the big guys. I will be honest, a few times I've gone back to Amazon for something I couldn't find anywhere else. It's been very few. One of the things I like about these boycotts is I've really gotten out of the habit of being bored and shopping on Amazon. I didn't realize I was even in that habit. The other thing is I have found a lot of alternative resources, especially with ebooks. So please do your best. If you are an American, it is very, very hard to avoid the big corporations. I have to be honest. I know I'm using Barnes & Noble bookstores like a toy store right now, and it is another big corporation. You have to be honest. These guys are all being run by millionaires and billionaires, and they are grifting from us middle-class people in America right now. You know it, I know it. It's what our government's doing right now. Okay, having said that, it is important that we walked ourselves into this trap, and we have to walk ourselves out. So please look at the alternative systems for meeting your needs where you can. Small companies, women-owned companies, LGBTQA plus companies, people of color owning companies, Native American companies, indigenous people companies. Look, try to give these little guys a leg up. I come from a family that had a small insurance business that supported me through an Ivy League education. I've been there. I've run the company. It's really important. Having said that, let me move on to the rattlesnake. Yes, one night I pushed Captain out the back door of our bedroom, and she turned around immediately and started screaming bloody murder. And I mean, barking aggressively. And that is so not who Captain is. And this brought Queenie from the other side of the back half acre running over, and she started doing it. And then I realized I was hearing like water running. And I opened the door. It was about 1.5 feet, 2 feet of rattlesnake curled up right next to my back step, hissing and rattling like crazy. I didn't get it. I stepped on the step. I was seriously a foot away from this thing. Thank God it was coiled. It wasn't striking. And it didn't want to strike. It was screaming bloody murder at all of us. And the dogs, I just remember the look of absolute astonishment on Captain's face. What the hell are you doing? Queenie was barking because Captain is barking. Captain understood the snake was dangerous. Where Captain learned this, I don't know. She hasn't been to a rattlesnake training, but she understood. So I jumped back in the house and like a total idiot called the dogs because I was afraid to leave them out there. And I was afraid to go out there with them. And later I realized how dumb this was. I should have just kept on going out the door, closed the door behind me, gone to the other door, gone around the house, whatever I had to do with the dogs. Anyway, they did make the leap, but they were so upset all night. Now, this is very scary, but what we realized is it's dry here now, and the rattlesnakes are coming across from our back acreage. They're coming across to our water trough that we keep out for the dogs. So needless to say, we upended the water trough, let it dry, and we're not putting water out there. So the dogs are only allowed out for a timer of 15 minutes, and then we bring them in. And it worked. We realized we've been hearing the dogs alarming for snakes. We just didn't know what it was. And so now the dogs are out there, and they're not doing nearly the barking they were. And Captain only barks like that for snakes. Normally, when she's frustrated with something like a coyote walking by, she does this whiny bark. Queenie has a bark that it means I'm bored. And Queenie has a bark, hey, I see you over there in that van. You better not come over here on my property. But let me tell you, their barks for the rattlesnake were completely distinctive. So we are really happy because we seem to have solved that problem. And we won't be going out that door. I have learned I can look out the windows and it works really well. I have a bay window and I can look out and see where that snake was, so I'll never do that again. And now I know the noise, which just amazes me. I didn't realize what that noise was. I thought my son had left the water running into the water trough. So that was scary. I took a picture of the snake to show you and then realized it made me sick looking at it, so we're done. Meanwhile, on Sunday I went back to Los Feliz. And I was going to go all the way down on the 217 bus, if you're interested, from Los Feliz and Central, which is near the Glendale train station, and all the way down past Los Feliz and down Hollywood Boulevard to get to the Chinese Theater, get off there, and walk my way back looking at the sights. Thank goodness I didn't. It was miserably hot by the time I got there. So I stopped in Los Feliz, and I said, what do I want to do? And I said, no more yarn, because I'll lose control. But I went into a few of the little boutique shops, and I went into Skylight Books, which I had really wanted to do. It is an indie bookstore in the little village there. It does very well for itself. I do recommend it. It just was really cool. When you walk in the door, there was a big display of LGBTQA plus authored books and topical books. There were sort of, shall we say, non-mainstream guides to LA. There was just a lot of really good stuff and a lot of very intellectual fiction. That was the majority of it. And a lot of really thoughtful, intelligent, critical nonfiction. It was a nice treat to be in there. I did find myself buying 2 books. One is Walking LA, and the other is about the museums, the Museum Companion of Los Angeles. So I'm very excited about that. I've been plotting out new places to go. I have realized there's a lot of Los Feliz I haven't done. I've just been hanging around on Vermont Avenue, and you can go a block back and you find the legendary Jenny's Ice Cream and a lot of other cool stuff back there. So I will be going back to Los Feliz a few more times, and I do want to make my way down Hollywood. We've been talking about now that we expect to move in roughly 2 years. This is the time to do all the LA stuff that we're giving ourselves these 2 years, and I'm having so much fun doing it. Now, originally I was going, as you know, on my own yarn crawl. Now I'm sort of seeing the neighborhoods, and I hope to see the museums, and we will see how it goes. Meanwhile, there is a picture of a little white car with a weird siren and sort of headpiece on the top. This is, I believe it's called a Waygo or a Waymo. This is a driverless taxi. I'll have to look this up, and I'll correct it in the show notes. They are piloting this project in a few cities. I do not like these things because we do not want to put our taxi drivers out of a job. Way to create thousands of unemployed people with low skills for no good reason. And the other thing is now they'll be all over the city because after you get the taxi drivers' jobs, you're going to go after things like DoorDash, Uber. This isn't good, folks, that we're losing jobs too big in the city. And these are relatively low-skilled jobs. You don't want these to go away. This is disturbing. So, why do I have that picture in the show notes? I was crossing Vermont to get to Hollywood. This thing pulled up to the curb. It was nowhere near me. It pulled up to the crosswalk while I was in the crosswalk. And it stopped about 3 feet from me. And I noticed it had this blue flashing light on the top. And I looked. There was no driver. And I suddenly realized what I was looking at. There were no passengers. A lot of the Angelenos will not ride in these. And it's not a safety issue. It is, again, you're getting rid of the drivers. You remember our problem with ICE. Most of the drivers are brown. And they're getting picked up by ICE. And this is how they're being replaced. And I think this is a national disgrace. I'm just going to say it up front. But it was creepy. No, it came nowhere near me. I could hear it make a noise when it registered my presence, which is nice for me. I didn't get killed in an intersection while I was crossing completely legally with the green. I don't like this at all. But there it is if you ever wanted to see it. And then below it, to comfort myself, there is a beautiful Johnny Jump Up flower, which is right in the middle of the other sushi I got at Starfish. This, again, was wrapped in cucumber, but this had a different name. It wasn't the oishi. I forget. It had Havana roll or something. Really nice, no rice. That's mixed up crab and mayonnaise wrapped around the sashimi in the middle. And they put this beautiful Johnny Jump Up flower on it. Yes, you can eat the flower. No, I didn't, but I did look it up. And you can also see the link to Skylight Books if you'd like to go there. Meanwhile, I do continue to carry the lifelines for people who are LGBTQA+. And we don't harm people just if they're different than we are. And if they are suicidal, we don't condemn them to death or isolation. That's not what civilized people do. Fortunately, we are cognitive listeners. We are witty, humane, and compassionate as well as civilized. Underneath that, the usual community resources, links, and the number that the USC law students have provided, where they have a hotline for people who need to go to immigration hearings. They will help you do it online so you don't get arrested by ICE. There is the information on ICE, the rapid response hotline where you can ask for help and you can report ICE sightings. It also has a list of your rights, and also it has mention of the ICE Block app, which is a place you can see where ICE is. It can only be said, look, I'm in Angelino. I'm in LA County as I record this, and they are picking up everybody. They're not just picking up people they think are immigrants because they have unrealistic quotas. I have to tell you, I don't care who they're picking up. I don't believe in this. I think this is horrifying. But if you're thinking you don't need this information, think again. Meanwhile, you can see the calendar of all the Yarny events in the Santa Clarita Valley and of my schedule upcoming, including my races, my time off for Labor Day. I just realized today, and this is happy news, that I'm going to go to the Evolution of Psychotherapy conference this year, as I do. Every 2 years, it's in Anaheim at the Convention Center. And I already bought my tickets months ago, as soon as I could. And I really look forward to this. And I will be spending at least 4 days down in Anaheim at the Sheraton there. I'm really looking forward to that. But the other weird but good news, I have been a member of their frequent flyer since it was the Sheraton chain. Now Marriott owns it, but Marriott honored the agreement with some of us who were frequent flyers. So actually, after I do cognitive and I do the hotel in Tehachapi and I do the hotel in Anaheim, I am going to be a gold elite member for life. Currently, I'm a silver elite member. This basically makes permanent all these lovely benefits I get by being a gold elite member. I am so happy about this. It doesn't mean much to you, but to me it means discounts, later checkouts, earlier check-ins, extra perks on the points, and discounts. I'm good. Meanwhile, on the calendar, I have to add that. And I'm also going to say, don't forget CFR 11, October 11th, 2025, link in the show notes. Please sign up. Minerva gets the last word. Minerva is hunching there over the beautiful and shredded by me, that is drafted by me, BFL fiber from Lisa Souza. Minerva has this weird love thing going with this fiber. She doesn't eat it, which is beautiful, but she likes to lie on it and just stand by it and admire it. But Minerva is looking at us somewhat balefully because she is advising you that it is hot outside. We are in the dog days of summer, which Minerva thinks is a perfect name for a stupid time of year that's too hot for any respecting cat. And Minerva is telling you to stay cool and stay with your projects. Now, for me, I've noticed, and this goes back to the strategy I said today, I have finally really given in to the fact, in the summer, I want to do little, easily completed projects. I like to use up scraps. I don't want to spend money on yarn, but Little Knittery is torturing me this way. And I am really enjoying this, hence the chickens and the shrug. And I'm just doing pieces of crocheted projects. So yeah, hopefully when the weather cools down, now I'm in Southern California, that means October, I will get back to finishing the sweaters and whatnot. But I am having a blast. I do want to mention, I was working on the alfresco sweater. The shoulder seams are done. And I really need to dedicate a long morning, like tomorrow morning, to just putting it on and working through the pattern how I want to finish it. Because I'm actually fairly close. I'm on the last skein of yarn. So, it is a time to do that. It is a time to finish up your little projects and just put your big stuff to the side because it's too hot and miserable if you're here in North America to put a big hunkin' sweater in your lap. Having said this, Minerva gives you this advice because she is proud to be a member of your community. Remember, we are a community and we do better when we work for the good of the community. That will preserve the rights of the individual. Having said that, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.